Hello everyone, it's Fury here. This is video tutorial for Runtime Variable System version Pro. This tutorial will only talk about the Pro features that are not in the Lite version. So if you need very basic tutorial about the plugin, what it can do, and how to work with various things, please watch the Lite version because it covers all of that. And here we are only gonna talk about the Pro features, and I'll assume that you already watched the previous video for the plugin. So cool. Let's get started. In the previous video for the Lite, we already created some interaction system with the plugin, some UI responses for the health and stuff like that. And in this tutorial, I'm just gonna talk about a little bit about the features for the Pro. So this is the variable list that we created in the previous video. As you can see, the Pro version has the replication tab here, or the replication column here. So that's the one difference that Pro has compared to Lite. It has a full multiplayer support, so you can just highlight which variables you want to replicate, and they will get replicated. Their replication system works exactly the same as regular variables, so they will basically clients can set their values, no problem, but whenever server sets the value and it gets replicated, it will override what client knows about this variable or what client has written to it. So server is always authority for the variables. Now, what's different compared to regular variables is that with the regular variables, you always have the replication features here on the right, where you can set whether you want the variable to be just replicated or replicated with some event, a rep notify event. So with the runtime variables, you don't have that. You kind of have the rep notify event by default. So if I type health, you'll see that I have the unchanged, just like in previous tutorial. So this will react, all of those events will be called accordingly to what server tells you. So if server tells you that the variable is added and it gets replicated to the client, it will get those will just get called on the client side exactly the same way as they did on the server side. So whenever the value changes and the server has this checked, the client will receive the change, and the change will be called through the event. So it's pretty cool because you kind of get the rep notify by default with the runtime variables. One thing to notice is that if server sets this to true, so sends the notification, it is respected by the replication system. So when server sets for example the health without this, the client will get a replicated variable, but it will not get this event. So it will follow the same rules as if it was local. So another new feature in the Pro is the node. Notice that in the previous tutorial there was only 4 nodes. In the Pro version you also have this node here, and it's called on any object. So let's compare it against the regular changed. So this one receives event about variable being added, changed, or removed on any object that you pass in here, and then you can act accordingly. Whereas this one in the Pro version, it allows you to, and just to clarify, they are both available in the Pro version, so this is just additional. So in Pro version, you have this node that doesn't take object input, which means that it will trigger whenever the value changes or gets added, changed, or removed on any object in the world at all, completely any object. So this way you don't need to have a pointer to a particular character or anything. It will just get called whenever anything changes, and then you can it provides you what object this variable was changed on. So you can then cast, check what object it was, and maybe do some filtering according to this. So for example, in the previous tutorial, you'll notice that I had UI element here that has an input is listening to the player pawn. When its health gets added or changed, it updates the progress bar here on the left down corner, right? So when I enter the game, you see that the health bar is red, and when I get damaged, you see that it's just updated according to that. So it works well, but there's one caveat to this. For example, if your pawn changes, for example, if you are walking, like let's take a GTA scenario, so you are walking around with the character, and then you enter a vehicle, a car or something like this, or a plane, then you possess the new pawn. This is your car or something. So this is only listening to this object that you passed here, which at this point in time was your character. So you would need to create a logic, an event whenever the pawn changes, you repossess pawn to something else, and then update this event to listen to a new pawn, like the car and stuff. And you need to keep track of this. So what's cool about this node is that you can basically not care what object health has changed, right? And for example, an int will be called, and here what is going to happen, this will trigger on any object in the world that has changed, added, changed, or removed. It will be probably our character or a car when you hit something or something like that. So maybe we could do cast to pawn, right? So maybe we're only interested in the pawns being modified. So, and if it's locally controlled pawn, so it's our character, our car, whatever we are currently controlling, only then we will update. Not like that. Only then we will update the health based on that, right? So in this case, we don't need to be like this solves the entire situation of repossessing pawns and changing pawns or anything like this. So in this case, I'm still getting the event. As you can see, it still works. Everything, all the interactions will still work and everything, but we are getting, well, the interaction didn't work because I was damaged. That's what we did in previous tutorial. When I get damaged, I disable the interactions. Anyways, so this is cool. For that reason, you don't need to be worried about what is being changed. It's just a kind of like global event, global kind of listening service. So that's the node that is only available in the Pro version. I found that very useful in my project when I use it for some global events. Extremely useful, in fact. And yeah, you will find one other cool thing that you can do in the system, and that applies both to Lite and Pro, but with this Pro node, it's even more pronounced. Like, for example, you could have I don't know, you want to have some global variables. Well, you can do global variables with the system easily. Let's say that I create category global variables, right? And I create some global variable, and let's say that I'm gonna do a global variable to say game score, for example. It's not assigned to any player because maybe you're building single player game or something very simple, and it's just a game score. So or maybe there is a lot of players in the game, but you only want to calculate it for all of the players at once. So so for example, you could use game state for that, And again, that's also another advantage. You normally would have to cast the game state or use some interfaces or something like that. Here you don't care. You just have a game state, and you can do set game score on the game state, and say the game score is 0 by default. And then basically you have some sort of logic. Maybe after 5 seconds, let's say, I'm gonna add some score to the game, like so. After 5 seconds, I'm adding like 20 points in the game, and that's it. We're good. And now maybe in the UI you want to be like, hey, actually I need to listen to the game score, but I don't really mind using game score on any object, and we can just go, because by default we will be using game score only in game state, for example, so we are okay for it to basically, to not, we don't have to cast or do any of that work, so we can add some text at the top, 0 0, game score, and then the game score gets updated whenever the game score changes, right? And we don't need any object or anything like this, it's just the game score. So set text, and use integer there, that or changed, and there you go, 0. After 5 seconds it should turn to 20. Yeah. So this node is also extremely useful if you want to create global event systems, for example. So you can I don't know, create some sort of maybe another category, global events, and let's add a variable to this that is gonna be called I don't know, global events on player changed, right? So this would be our pawn, for example, and whenever our character is possessed, for example, and it could be on any character, any car or anything like this, we can basically just go get game state maybe, or any object really, because this system, as I said before, it works on any object, even if it's not a blueprint. I'm just using game state or game instance for that matter. You can do set player changed. Set on player changed, and the latest value is like this. So if it's local, or well, is locally controlled. Yeah, so if our player is repossessed to something else, we just get this, and generally we'll get an event whenever we repossess from or to this character. So we can do another one here, player changed on any object, and just listen to player changes, right? So I don't know, we can have added or print the player that has changed, whatever. I'm not sure if this will trigger now, because if this is called before you bind to the event, it obviously won't be called, so it might not be. But anyways, you get the idea. It's basically very useful for global events, global variables, attributes for particular entities or interaction systems. Really, anything you can imagine. If you have any issues with the plugin, this one or the light version, let me know and we'll try to sort it out. And yeah, that's it. Thanks, and see you in the next one.